So for number 27 on this page, they have given us a point and they have given us the slope. So they've given us this point, -1, -3, and they've given us the slope of 0.4. And so we're going to use our y equals mx plus b here to solve for our b, because that's what we need in order to solve this for slope-intercept form. And so we're going to say we have our x, we have our y, we have our m. So we're going to say y equals m times x plus b. And we're just going to solve this with, basic algebra solving. So 0.4 times -1 rather is -0.4. And then to get that to the other side, right, we're solving for b, so we're going to add it. We're going to do the opposite there. So plus 0.4. Now, for this piece of it, pay attention to your decimals here, because decimals may throw you. This is 3.0, right? And it's -3.0. -3.0. So I'm actually subtracting these. I have a negative and a positive. And so I need to subtract here. And I'm going to keep the sign of my larger, which is negative. So my answer is going to be negative, right? And then when I subtract, I have to carry. So I'm going to carry from here. So 10 minus 4 is 6. Bring down that decimal. 2 minus 0 is 2. So my b here is -2.6. -2.6. So now I have my m and I have my b. And remember, the equation leaves the y and the x. So my answer here is going to be y equals m x, and it's a negative b, so I'm just going to say minus 2.6 because it's usually plus b there. And that would be my answer. Let's look at the next one. So number 28. For number 28, they gave me 2 points. So they gave me the point 1, 3 and the point -4, -9. So I need a point and the slope at least to solve, right? And they have not given me the slope. So I'm going to use those 2 points to solve for slope. And then I will go from there. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You're going to get -9 minus 3 is -12. -4 minus 1 is -5. And I have a negative over a negative, so my slope is actually positive here. Once I have my slope, I'm going to move on and you do exactly what I did at the top. So I'm going to use one of my points. I'm just going to choose the first one here. And I'll say y equals m times x plus b, right? And so 3 equals 12/5 plus b. Common denominator here, right? We have to multiply top and bottom by 5, so I get 15/5. And I'm going to subtract that 12/5 over minus 12/5 is going to equal my b. So 15/5 minus my 12/5 here is going to give me my 3/5 as my b. And then once I have b, I'm going to plug it in. Y equals m. I solved for m. 12/5 times x plus b. I also solved for that, which is 3/5. And I am finished. All right, so for 29, once again, they gave us 2 points here. So we have the point 2, 0 and 6, -5. So I have 2, 0 and 6, -5. Once again, you want to subtract your y's, subtract your x's to get your slope first. So it doesn't matter what order. So even if I did this, I'm going to say y minus y, 0 minus a -5, x minus x, 2 minus 6. 0 minus a -5 is +5. 2 minus 6 is -4. And so my slope here is -5/4. If you did it the other way, you would have gotten -5 over +4, which is also -5/4. So that is my slope. I have found my m. Then I'm going to use a point to solve for my b. All right, so I'm just going to use the first one here. So I'm going to say y, that's 0, equals m, negative 5/4, x, that's times 2, plus b. Remember that 2 is just over 1, right? So you can cross cancel there, or you can just multiply across. Negative 10/4, if you cross cancel, you'll end up with the same thing, negative 5/2 when you reduce. But that is my b. Negative 5/2 is my b. So now I have my m, and I have my b. Once I have my m and my b, then I can fill it in. So I'm going to say y equals m, that's negative 5/4 x, plus, in this case, minus b. Why do we have a... Oh, it's actually a... We have to move it over, by the way. This ends up being a positive. Plus 5/2. All right. All right, the first thing we talked about was the standard form of a line. That's ax plus by equals c. You'll notice on this first page that all of those are in that form. Ax plus by equals c. A, b, and c are integers, which means we do not have fractions. So if you have fractions, you need to multiply by your common denominator to get rid of the fractions. A is also greater than 0, so a is positive, meaning you may have to divide by a negative if it wants you to put it in standard form as your answer. But it is in this form, and they've given us example 3x minus 2y equals 6. All right, and so this is standard form. For your quiz, you will have to give me both of the intercepts, the x-intercept and the y-intercept, and you will need to graph. So I've taken this particular example, and if I were wanting to find the x and y-intercept, I would just make the other one 0. All right, so to find my x-intercept, I'm just going to make my y 0. So if I want my x-intercept, I'm going to take this equation and I'm going to plug in a 0 for y. So I'm going to say 3x minus 2 times 0 equals 6. What that does, it actually just cancels out this y piece of it. So I end up with just the x piece of it, 3x, equal to the answer, 6. And I solve for x. Well, x here is 2. So that means my x-intercept is 2, 0. 2, 0. So x-intercept here would be 2, 0. 2, 0. All right? And you're going to go and graph that. 2, 0. That's on the x-axis, right? And then you need to find your y-intercept. To find your y-intercept, then you make your x 0. So I'm going to say 3 times 0 minus 2y equals 6. What that does is it cancels out the x piece of it. And you just have the y piece of it. Negative 2y equals 6. You divide both sides by that negative 2, y equals negative 3. Which means my y-intercept is going to be 0, negative 3. And so I'm going to go on my y-axis and graph my 0, negative 3. All right? And then your final step is to graph the line. To graph the line, you have to connect those dots and put arrows at the end. So you want to go past the points that you just found. And then you want to put arrows at the end of each of one of those. All right? Arrows at the end of each of one of those. And so for your first page here, you're going to have 3 answers. You're going to have an x-intercept, you're going to have a y-intercept, and you're going to have the graph here, all right? So you need to label them. I need to see x-intercept, I need to see y-intercept, and then I need to see the graph, that you have graphed those 2 points and the line. All right, there are 2 ways to find slope. The first way that we found slope was actually from a graph. Question. So your numerator is always up or down. It doesn't matter which point you start with. So I could have started, if I start with this right-hand point, I count up to and over right 2, so positive 2 over positive 2. If I had started at this right-hand point, I would have gone down 2, which would be negative 2, and I would have gone left 4, which is negative 4, negative 2 over negative 4. So it doesn't matter which point you start at, but your numerator must be your up and down, and your denominator must be your left and right. That is what is important here. The other situation you can come across is just having 2 points. I could potentially give you 2 points and say, what is the slope? And so with 2 points, then you're going to use your slope formula. You're going to subtract your y's, that's your numerator, subtract your x's, that is your denominator. It doesn't matter which group starts first, okay? What matters is that you keep them in the same order, meaning these two that are on top of each other must be a point that is together, an xy, and these two must be in the same group, okay? But it doesn't matter if you flip-flop the groups themselves. You will still get the same slope. You'll still get the same slope. So on your review sheet, you'll see 11 through 14. They just give you 2 points and they say, hey, find the slope. You will use this formula to find it. All right, you'll just subtract your y's, subtract your x's. So we did it in bell work. If I subtract my y's, it doesn't matter which order as long as I stay in the same order. Or if I went the other way, 7 minus negative 1, negative 1 minus negative 4. You'll see negative 1 minus 7, negative 4 minus a negative 1, positive slope of 8/3. 7 minus a negative 1, negative 1 minus a negative 4, positive slope of 8/3. And so you'll see that when given 2 points, as long as you keep them in whatever order you started in, you will get the same slope. All right, slope-intercept form. So for slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. When I ask for the equation of the line, your y and x should still be y and x. They should stay variables, y and x. What should be filled in is your m, your slope, and your b, your y-intercept. You do have special cases. So if you have a vertical line, it's going to be just x equals a number. If you have a horizontal line, it's just going to be y equals a number, all right? But other than that, you should have y equals mx plus b with m and b filled in. M is their slope of the line. B is the y-intercept of the line, all right? And then really the rest of this quiz is giving you different things and wanting that equation, all right? So I could give you the slope and the y-intercept. That's very simple. If I hand you the slope and I hand you the y-intercept, you literally just plug them into where they go, all right? The next thing I could do is I could give you the standard form, and I could say, I want this in y-intercept. That means get y all by itself. Move your x's over, divide by anything that is in front of your y. And you don't have to worry about getting rid of fractions. In slope-intercept form, the only thing that matters is that the y is by itself. So move your x group over using the opposite, then divide by anything that's in front of your y. Keep in mind, a negative 1 in front of the y is still a negative 1 that needs to be divided over. And when you divide by what's in front of your y, you divide every single piece by what is in front of your y, okay? I could also give you a point and the slope. You're going to use this same equation. You're going to fill in your x, your y, and your m, and you will solve for b. Once you solve for b, you are not done. You have to go back, rewrite this y equals mx plus b, filling in your slope, and filling in the b that you found, okay? And then the last way I could do is I could give you 2 points. And I could say, give me the slope-intercept form. That means use those 2 points to find your slope, then use one of those points in the slope to find your y-intercept, and then go back and rewrite y equals mx plus b, plugging in your m and plugging in your b, okay? And so you'll have multiple things really asking the same thing, but giving you different information to get you to do it, okay? All right, so given slope-intercept form, then you need to graph. Now with with standard form, you find 2 points. You find your x-intercept, your y-intercept, you put those on the graph, and then you connect. With slope-intercept form, you actually have 1 point. The point that they gave you is the y-intercept. So they have given you the y-intercept here. That means on the y-axis, which is the one that goes up and down, you're going to start at this number that they give you, positive 2. So I'm going to start at positive 2. My slope here is negative 3/4. That means negative 3 over positive 4, or it can be positive 3 over negative 4. There are times when one of these may take you off the graph, and so you want to use the other one so that you don't go off the graph when you graph it, okay? But they should give you the same exact line. So it's a way to check it if you want to do it both directions. Negative 3 over 4, well, that means down 3, 1, 2, 3, and right 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to put me at the point 4, negative 1. Positive 3 over negative 4, well, that's going to take me up 3, 1, 2, 3, and left 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to put me at the point negative 4, 5, negative 4, 5. But you see that when I go to connect these dots here, that those 3 points are all on the same line, as it should be. Because if I did my slopes correctly, they're all on the same line. And so you're going to connect your dots, whether you did 2 or whether you did 3, and you're going to put arrows at the end. So special cases would be like y equals 5, that example, or x equals 5, that example, okay? Y equals 5 means you go on the y-axis, you find your 5, and that is a horizontal line at y equals 5. Y will always be 5 all the way across. X equals 5, that is a vertical line. So you can just go to your positive 5 on your x, and it will always be 5 for x. So this is going to be a horizontal line. This is going to be a vertical line. Okay?